Greetings, seekers of hidden knowledge, and welcome to Overheard Nation. Are you ready to uncover a secret that the history books decided to leave out? How can a single pig and a few stolen potatoes bring two of the world's greatest empires to the brink of all-out war? This is not a joke. This is the story of the Pig War. Our story begins in the year 1859. On a small, beautiful island in the Pacific Northwest. San Juan Island. It was a paradise of green hills, quiet forests, and calm, deep blue waters. A place of profound peace. But this paradise had a problem. A big one. Both the United States and the British Empire claimed it as their own. The border was unclear. The treaty was ambiguous. So, for a time, they agreed to share it. A small community of American farmers settled on the island. On the other side, the British Hudson's Bay Company ran a large sheep ranch. And for a while, there was an uneasy peace. A fragile, temporary peace. A peace that was about to be broken by a pig. The American farmer was a man named Lyman Cutlar. He had moved to the island to claim a piece of land. To build a life. To grow potatoes. The pig belonged to a man named Charles Griffin. He was an Irishman, an employee of the Hudson's Bay Company. And he let his pigs roam free across the island. Including, through Lyman Cutlar's potato patch. This was not the first time. Cutlar had complained before. He had warned Griffin to keep his pig contained. But nothing changed. On the morning of June 15, 1859, Cutlar walked out to his garden and saw the same large, black pig eating his potatoes. Again. For Lyman Cutlar, this was the final straw. He was calm. He was deliberate. He walked into his house. He took his rifle. He aimed. And he shot the pig. The pig was dead. The conflict was not about land anymore. It was not about treaties. It was now about a pig. And what followed would defy all logic. Lyman Cutlar was a reasonable man. He had not wanted to shoot the pig. But the damage was done. So he went to Charles Griffin's home. He offered to pay for the dead animal. He offered $10. A fair price, he thought. Griffin was not reasonable. Not on this day. He was furious. His prized pig was dead. He did not want $10. He demanded $100. An impossible sum. An insult. Cutlar refused. He argued he should pay nothing at all. The pig was trespassing. It was stealing his food. He had every right to protect his property. The argument ended. But the problem had just begun. Charles Griffin went to the British authorities on the island. He demanded the arrest of Lyman Cutlar, an American citizen, for shooting a British pig on disputed land. The British authorities agreed. They threatened to send armed men to take Cutlar from his farm and sail him to Victoria for a British trial. For the American settlers on the island, this was an act of aggression. A line had been crossed. The American settlers were alarmed. They saw a threat not just to one man, but to their claim on the island. They sent a petition. A plea for military protection from their own government. And the U.S. Army answered. In late July of 1859, a company of American soldiers landed on San Juan Island. 66 men. From the 9th U.S. Infantry. Their commander was Captain George Pickett. The very same George Pickett who would later lead a famous, doomed charge at the Battle of Gettysburg. He established a camp near the shoreline. He raised the American flag. And he declared the entire island to be United States property. The British were stunned. And then, they were outraged. For them, this was an invasion. An act of war. The governor of British Columbia, James Douglas, ordered a response. A show of overwhelming force. 3 British warships sailed into the harbor. The HMS Tribune, the HMS Satellite, and the HMS Plumper. They carried hundreds of Royal Marines and more than 60 powerful cannons. The standoff began. On one side, 66 American soldiers in a small camp. On the other, 3 of the most powerful warships in the Royal Navy. Their cannons were aimed directly at Pickett's men. The fate of 2 empires now rested on a tiny island. All because of a dead pig. And one wrong move could start a war. The news of the standoff traveled slowly. By ship. By telegraph. It finally reached the desks of power in Washington, D.C. and in London. The reaction was not pride. It was panic. President James Buchanan was horrified. Queen Victoria was not amused. The idea that 2 great nations would go to war over a pig was utterly insane. And politically disastrous. Urgent orders were dispatched to the commanders on the scene. The message was simple. And absolute. Do not fire the first shot. The tension on the island began to ease. Soldiers from both sides started visiting each other's camps. They shared tobacco. They shared stories. They held shooting competitions and celebrated holidays together. They became friends. The leaders sent in the diplomats. A peaceful solution was negotiated. For the next 12 years, San Juan Island remained under a peaceful, joint military occupation. A small British camp on one side. A small American camp on the other. Finally, in 1872, the dispute was settled forever. An international arbitration, led by Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany, ruled in favor of the United States. The island officially became American territory. The British Royal Marines packed their bags and sailed away. The soldiers shook hands. The crisis was over. And in the end, after all the threats, all the warships, all the cannons, the total number of casualties in the Pig War was 1. The pig. This absurd conflict was resolved peacefully. But it leaves you to wonder. How many other wars? How many far more bloody wars in history began for reasons that were just as trivial? Thanks for exploring this secret with us. For more stories forgotten by history, subscribe now and hit the bell so you never miss the next investigation.